In Jeremiah, we were just in it, it made me think of it, about the Queen of Heaven. I know God hates that, and there's a lot of like current attachments to twisting that around different religions and stuff. Maybe you could expound on that a little bit.
What Queen of Heaven?
You know what I'm talking about, Pastor?
Yeah, I do. There were a number of ancient religions that had a let me find the verse.
Yeah, I didn't write it down.
Jeremiah 44. I'm sorry.
17, 44, 17.
Yeah. And then again in 19, Israel, there is a great divide in Israel, in the history of Israel, and it revolves around Jeremiah, or at least his time. Because there are three different categories, four different categories really, of prophets in the Old Testament. What are the four different categories of prophets?
You mean of what they have to?
They basically break down by time.
Oh, the minor prophets, the major prophets, you mean that?
No, we do that. But that doesn't tell you anything about themes. There were four basic time periods, and they correspond to the different ministries of prophets. There were the early prophets, or the non-writing prophets. These were the people that didn't pen scripture. Who would be part of that category?
Jeremiah?
There's a book with his name
Well, I
right
didn't know
there.
if he wrote it or someone else did. Is that what you meant? Like someone else wrote theirs?
People like Nathan. Remember Nathan the prophet? What was Nathan the prophet known for?
And you tell
David.
that he...
Yeah, he was the prophet that came to David. And there were a number of other ones that came through that time period. The biggest, the most well-known one, or two actually, because they go together, are...
Well, he has a book named after him?
No.
No.
No, they're non-writing.
Right.
That's where I messed up.
Probably the most famous prophet of the Old Testament.
Elijah?
Elijah and Elisha. They never wrote scripture. They had very, very powerful ministries, but they left no written record behind them. The only thing we have is the historical accounts of little snippets of their ministry. Far less than we know about, say, an Isaiah or a Jeremiah. Then you have the pre-exilic prophets.
Exilic?
Exilic, as in exile.
Oh, okay.
Exile with an IC at the end of it. So who would they be? They would be the pre-600-ish AD prophets who prophesied before the exile.
Pre-600 BC.
BC.
Oh, BC. Okay, I thought you said 18.
So did I.
Did I?
Yeah,
I
think
might
you did.
have. Pre-600 BC, when Israel falls, 586 is the actual date, but around 600, we're going to get to the ones right around them. But these are the people like Isaiah and Jonah and a number of the others throughout the minor prophets. Then you have the exilic prophets. Who would they be?
Samuel.
Oh no, Samuel's way, he's one of the very early ones.
So that would be after exile?
So this is during the exile.
Okay, thank you.
So you've got Jeremiah, Ezekiel, who else? Daniel, and a number of the minor prophets.
These are not.
The exilic prophets. You had the
Okay.
now you've got these are the prophets that actually during the time frame of the exile. When Israel is overrun by the Babylonians and conquered, and the temple's destroyed, and Jerusalem's, where's Jeremiah? He's right there in Jerusalem, and then they, against his will, cart him down to Egypt to try to get away from them. Where's Ezekiel? He has a ministry to the exiles right in Babylon. And he's one of the people that's taken away in the exile. Where's Daniel have a ministry?
Babylon.
They're in Babylon. Although the Jewish people do not count Daniel as a prophet.
That's interesting.
Why?
Has anything with the writing of the book
No.
in different language?
No,
Is it because of his heritage?
no. Because for them, prophet was a job title. What was Daniel's job title?
Government employee. wasn't
He was a government employee. He was a part of the nobility. He was a functionary in the government. He did the writing prophecy on the side. And so they don't count him as a prophet because of that. Generally, they only counted people as prophets if that was what you did. And then the final group would be, well, follow the pattern there. We had the pre-exilic,
AD?
the exilic, and the post-exilic. So these are the prophets after Israel comes back into the land after the Babylonian captivity. So they're writing from the late 490s, 500 BC, up until the close of the Hebrew scriptures in the very early 300s BC. So if you divide those by that, let's look at this whole thing because it's more than the Queen of Heaven.
Do we have prophets that fit in those categories?
Oh, absolutely. I gave you some. The early prophet, I'm sorry, the last one,
Yeah.
the post-exilic, Malachi,
Yeah, you did.
Zechariah.
Malachi, Zechariah?
Yeah. Maybe Zephaniah. Now, what was, if you take the early non-writing prophets and the pre-exilic prophets, what is the constant theme with them?
Probably repent.
Well, that's true of all of them, but what was the condition that they're dealing with?
Probably backsliders.
People dealing with idols.
Yeah, idolatry. And worshiping other gods. So if you go through those times, what are constant things that are talked about in the history of Israel?
Goddess worship.
All of those, cutting down, when a godly king came and they listened to the prophets, what did they do?
They cut down the Asherah.
They cut down the Asherah poles.
In the high
Was that
places.
partially-
They tore down the Baals and the Molochs. And they cleaned out the idols out of the temple. And that's a constant theme as you go through Kings and Chronicles, right?
Yeah, it keeps going back and forth.
Like a revival.
Yeah, and then a wicked king would come in, he wouldn't listen to the prophets, and the cycle would repeat itself. Now, who were the early idols that Israel followed?
Baal.
Baal.
Who were they?
They were what do you mean, who were they? They're fictional.
Well, that's true, but they were-
Northern Israel would do that, follow them, correct?
They were Canaanite gods. Or some of them were, and this makes sense, Egyptian gods. Why?
They were
Take them out of
They
Egypt.
came out.
Because they were in captivity in Egypt and were exposed to the Egyptian false gods in Egypt. And when they invaded the land of Canaan, what happened?
They intermarried with.
They intermixed with the Canaanites. They never had, for a very long time, had real victory over them. So they were constantly rubbing shoulders with them and embracing Canaanite gods. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Sure.
So the constant theme of these early non-writing prophets, what's the big event in Elijah's life?
When they put out he goes before the other guys and he brings fire from heaven to
400 prophets, false prophets.
And what is that? Who's he contesting with?
Baal.
Baal, and also Moloch, because there were a bunch of Moloch.
Yeah.
We count the Baal prophets, we forget the Bible says there were Moloch prophets there as well. Because they were related deities, they were both fire demon deities. So again, it's these Canaanite false religions that they're constantly being tempted with. So a huge portion of their ministry is against the Canaanite religions, the Egyptian religions. As you move into the exilic prophets, the time of the exile, the years right before the exile, maybe 20, 30 years before the exile, during that 70 years that they're in exile. Guys like Jeremiah. What do you see happening in Israel?
I'm going to guess a falling away.
But where are they going? Where are the people going? Remember, in Elijah's day, it's after Canaanite gods, because who are they fighting with?
Canaanites.
Canaanites. Who are they going after in that time of the exile?
Who were the Jews going in?
Who are they being tempted with, giving up to, worshiping, pulling into their worship?
Egyptian gods?
No,
Yeah, I wouldn't think so, because I would think they'd hate the Egyptians and wouldn't want anything to do with it.
but they still went after their gods.
Really?
Well, who'd they make when Moses was up on the mountain?
Yeah, the calf.
Wait, I thought the Egyptian gods were all these,
No,
Killing
cat
animals.
things.
not all of them.
Animals.
Oh,
So, who are they going to go after? Think about this. They went after the Canaanite gods when they were fighting with Canaan and the Canaanites and trying to overcome them, and they were jealous of their gods. They've got these idols to go before them. We want our own idols. So they patterned their idols after the Canaanites, and when the Canaanites would beat them up, they go, ooh, we better worship their gods because their God's better than our God. Who are they going to be worshiping during the time of the exile?
Babylonian?
Babylonian gods. Babylon, by the time of the exile of Judah, Babylon has conquered Israel for over 100 years. That would be like, I'm going back to the Cold War when everybody was terrified Russia was going to take over the world. Remember those days?
no.
So let's pretend that they did, and Russia invaded the West Coast, and they conquered America all the way to the Appalachian Mountains, and this little part of Eastern America is holding out against them, but they rule the whole. That was the situation in Israel. The vast majority of their territory had been ruled by Babylon for a long time. So what do a lot of people say? Ooh, they're powerful. So we've got to appease their gods. So these things like the Queen of Heaven, who is a Mesopotamian, Babylonian goddess, that worship begins, we're not talking about Moloch here. That was the Canaanites. They've been gone for a long time. We're not talking about Baal, Moloch, any of those tribal deities of the Canaanites. Now we're talking about the false religions that came out of Babylon, out of Persia, out of the eastern part of the Middle East. Modern day Iraq, Iran, that area. And because they're the big boys on the block, everybody's going, ooh. Now, later, coming into the New Testament period, what are we going to have a problem with?
Rome?
Yeah, but specifically not Roman as much. Rome ruled the eastern part of the western part of the empire. The eastern part was much more ruled by politically Rome. But what dominated the thinking of people? Greek. So you've got these Greek religions. So when you look to the New Testament and the Paulinian letters, the Johannine letters, the Petrine letters, those are just fancy ways of saying what? The letters of Paul, John, and Peter. What are they so often contending with? Not necessarily gods, people setting up idols, but people doing what? And Paul and John especially, in 1 John, fight against this tooth and
Oh, you
nail.
mean people worshiping them?
No. People embracing Greek philosophy and trying to mix it with Christianity.
Would that include like the Greek gods and all that kind of stuff?
Most intelligent Greeks didn't believe in the Greek gods at that point. they were an anachronism. People gave lip service to it, but people were much more driven by philosophy. So the Greeks weren't built around Zeus by the time of Jesus. Who are they built around?
Caesar?
Well, as Romans, but that wasn't where their culture was. If you sat down with a bunch of well-educated Greeks, who are they going to be discussing?
Socrates.
Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, these philosophers. And what is the first Christian heresy? First Christian heresy. We still have it today.
Catholic Church.
No.
Way before that. End of the first century,
Had to do with the
dominates the second century, the war with them.
Stoics. Or no?
No. Gnosticism with a G. GN. Gnosticism. And what's Gnosticism? Let's put Jesus into the thinking of the Greeks. So what is Jesus? Pure spirit.
That's where I thought you were going. Either he's all human or he's all God.
So did Jesus die on the cross?
Sure did.
No! Because he's spirit and spirit can't die.
Striking
And
out.
and they rose from the dead, but that wasn't really him.
I'm
You
sorry.
never know when he's going to pull one.
But that's this heresy of Gnosticism. What does it mean to be a good Christian for a Gnostic?
That you recognize that he was all spirit.
That you surrender connection with your body and focus only on the spirit. The Greek idea of spirit.
Sounds like the
That's sort of like
Pentecostals.
Christian Science.
Yeah,
Very much like Christian Science. Very much like Christian Science. What is salvation for the Gnostics? What's the word Gnostic mean?
Knowledge.
Knowledge. What's salvation for the Gnostics? Having forgiveness by the blood of Christ? No, because Jesus didn't die. Who died on the cross? According to the Gnostics. Judas, the faithful disciple.
Really? They
Faithful.
believe that?
Absolutely.
Wow.
So what happened? So who was the guy that got hung on the tree? Or that didn't happen?
That didn't
Well-
happen. No,
Okay.
He was hung on a tree, so
You
I
mean the
guess
other
they could
tree.
consider it
Yeah,
one and the
I
same.
Yeah.
because Jesus couldn't have died, and then some of them split out Jesus, that there was the man Jesus and there was the Christ, and some of them say the Jesus, the man, was crucified, but Christ, the immortal spirit, wasn't. Weird stuff these Gnostics came up with. Have you ever heard of the History Channel? Used to do this all the time back in the heyday of the History Channel in the 80s and 90s. Lost books of the Bible uncovered after 2,000 years.
Oh, boy.
What were they always talking about?
Probably Greek mythology.
The Apocrypha.
Gnostic Gospels.
Wow.
The Gnostics wrote their own Gospels. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene. The Gospel of Thomas. The Gospel of Judas. These false second century Gospels.
That was all Gnostics.
That was
Gospel
all
of Enoch.
Gnostics. Now that's pre-Christ. This is all second century AD stuff. So here's the principle, and it impacts us today. Here's the application to all this stuff. When Israel was surrounded by Canaanites, who did they worship?
Canaanite gods.
Canaanite gods. When Babylon pushed in and took over, who did they worship?
Babylon gods.
Babylon gods, queen of heaven, starry hosts. What was the Tower of Babel? What was, in way back in Genesis, what was the Tower of Babel?
It was Babel.
I thought it
Babel,
was man's
Babel.
intent to reach God.
Yeah, wasn't it?
But what was it? Was it a ladder to climb up to the sky and open a door to God?
No, they wanted to get on the same
Tower.
level.
What was it?
I'm
A
trying-
shrine?
We have a bunch of them here in America. A huge amount
Like a
of them.
totem pole?
Around the world.
Skyscraper.
No,
A lighthouse? I don't know.
no. It was an observatory.
Oh,
The higher you are, the clearer you can see the sky, right? Less air over you for the light to go through. You go up to high altitudes, up in the Rockies, up in the Himalayas. How clear is the sky at night?
Well, for them, it would have been really clear because they wouldn't have had the pollution and
Well,
stuff
yeah,
that we have
there wouldn't
now.
be
They
all
wouldn't
that
have had to go
light.
that high.
No, they would have had a lot of pollution because how did they heat themselves? Wood fires, yeah. Remember being at creation? How bad was,
yeah, true.
yeah. It was an observatory because what was a central thing in Babylonian religion?
Worshipping the stars?
Bingo. They were
Astronomy?
not astronomers. They were
Astrologers.
astrologers.
It's close.
That's all the way into Jesus' day. Who shows up?
Watchmen,
Wise
Magi,
Who are the wise men?
stargazers.
They are the court astrologers of Babylon. Why do they show up in Bethlehem?
Saw the star.
We have seen his
Star.
star. Because why did they see his star? They're astrologers, reading portents in the heavens. And the Tower of Babel, going all the way back to the oldest Babylonian civilization, prehistory, was based on star worship, astrology.
Boy.
As that goes through the entire Babylonian time, all the way up through the Babylonian of Daniel's time. What do they train him to be?
Astrologer.
An astrologer, an interpreter of dreams. He's good at it. Put him to work.
Did they have like telescope stuff? Like what did they just
No,
look through
they-
a window?
No, just the naked eye. But if you get up high enough, you can see a lot of things with the naked eye that you don't see down at the ground, especially if down at the ground you have what?
Clouds.
A lot of people burning wood fires to stay warm or coal fires to stay warm. There's a lot of smoke, but what happens to wood smoke? It often
Dissipates.
No, it
stays
beneath
down
the
here
surface.
and you get that fog condition.
Can't see the
But
stars.
if you get up above it,
Yeah.
See clearly.
you can see clearly. So this is what's going on here. Here's the thing. When they're influenced by Canaan, surrounded by Canaanites, they worship Canaan. When they're surrounded by Babylonian and Babylonian influence, they worship.
Babylonian.
Once the exile really got started, there's a huge division in Israel. You can draw a line through Israel right in the middle of that exile. So the transition from Jeremiah to Ezekiel. Jeremiah is the early part of the exile. Ezekiel is the later part of the exile. What's the difference? Israel is still worshiping physical gods. in the early part of the exile. They're worshiping literal idols. By the time of Ezekiel, Israel has totally forsaken idolatry, physical idolatry. And there will never be a Jewish people who worship physical idols ever again, right down to the present day.
They said they kind of learned their lesson.
Yep. So Ezekiel talks about, let me give you the passage here. Don't keep that on the top of my tongue.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
So,
On the tip of his tongue.
yeah, Ezekiel 14:3. Ezekiel 14:3. What's Ezekiel 14:3?
Son of man, these men have set up their idols in their hearts, and put before them that which causes them to stumble into iniquity. Should I let myself be inquired of at all by them?
So, what is his accusation against Israel?
They have idols in their hearts now.
Is he saying, you people worship the Queen of Heaven? You people worship Moloch? You people worship Baal? Is that what he's saying?
No.
What's his complaint with the people of Israel in his day, later exile? They have stopped worshiping a hunk of metal or stone or wood, and they have instead done what?
Set up
Set up idols
idols in their heart.
in their heart.
What does that mean?
Like imagination.
That, correct. They have set up idols that are not a physical thing. It is some concept, idea, or priority that becomes the God of their life.
Which is much harder to deal with.
Social justice.
Could be
You can't burn those easily.
money, success, power, fame, comfort, physical pleasure, food. It's not that you have a shrine to it, but you live for it. You live for partying on Friday nights. You live for sexual encounters with someone. You live for getting ahead and being a big success. Do you see what I'm saying?
Sure.
These are idols of the heart. Is there a shrine in their house?
No.
Is there a Mary in the half shell on the yard?
Half shell, I like that.
I feel like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Turtle power, Mary power.
Yeah, it was the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, Mary power.
Mary and a half shell, Catholic power.
Yeah, okay.
Which would be actually easier to address or identify.
Yeah. So, Canaanites, when they're the big threat, they worship them. Babylon becomes the big threat, they worship their gods. After Babylon falls, who becomes the big power in the Middle East? This guy named Alexander.
Greek.
Greece. So by the time of the New Testament, who are they chasing after?
Greek gods.
Yeah, or more Greek philosophy at least. Greek thought. Again, they're not having physical idols. There's nobody out there in Jerusalem saying, let's worship Zeus. They would find that highly offensive. But they are saying, let's accommodate our faith into Greek thinking. Now, what does that have to do with us? what does that have to do with us? Because if this is all just theory, okay, gee, that's really great, Pastor, you gave us a good history lesson.
I think we do the same thing. I think we try to
We-
like
we're still
incorporate the world into the church.
What's the predominant force in the world today?
Money.
Catholic Church?
No.
What did you say, Paul?
Predominant force for
Nothing.
what?
I didn't say anything.
That pretty much dominates where things go. And it's changing.
Philosophy.
The American dream.
Hmm.
Everybody wants to come to America to get the American dream. Other countries want to copy the American dream. What's the having a house, having the this, having the that, having a lot of toys? You can go to places in South America. Back in the 50s, the missionaries would go to tribes that had never been contacted. No one even knew they existed. And then when they got there, what would they find?
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola. Today, you can go to places where it is so far out that, and what will you find there?
McDonald's?
Phones.
Cell phones.
Oh.
Cell phones. Why is it that Satan has put so much emphasis into the media, in the movies?
Influence.
People, yeah, they're influenced.
Because that's what builds the idols of the heart. That's what gives you these things to set as your priority. Here's a fact. Since 2019, how many years is that? 7 years. No movie put out by Disney has made a profit.
It's hard to believe.
None of their movies are making any money?
Nope.
Not the movies.
They're losing like crazy.
Yeah.
But they're influencing.
At the best, they're breaking even. The multi-million, the ones that earn $1 billion are breaking even because Disney spends $500 million making and advertising a movie.
They're not even breaking.
Well,
Yeah,
some
I
of
don't think
the
they are
ones
either.
from
We can argue. that.
Mulan or some of those, the Mulan 2
No.
might have broken even, might have. Most of them are losing $300-400 million. Things like Buzz Lightyear lost $300-400 million. Because how do you account in movies? Well, you have to account all the money it costs to shoot a movie. Disney usually spends $300 million to $400 million shooting a movie. Some of the Star Wars movies where they spent literally closer to $700 million.
Now, this is before they bought it from George Lucas. This doesn't count the movies that
The
he
whole
made.
package.
Correct. This is
Because-
after they bought them
Right,
from.
because he
He
already
was-
made them.
Yeah. But I'm saying their movies, the Avengers movies, they spent $500-600-700 million on them. Then you have to advertise it. If you pay $400-500 million easy on making the movie, you've got to spend another $200 million promoting it, advertising it, doing all the stuff to get word of mouth about it. So how much if you spend, let's be conservative, $300 million making the movie and $150 million advertising the movie, and that's pretty cheap for Disney. What's that put you at?
450.
$450 million. Okay, so the movie made $500 million, they made a profit. No, because does Disney show the movies to you?
Well,
The
yes.
The theaters show them to you. AMC, Regal, the theater chains. Guess what they do?
Concessions.
No,
They charge money.
they charge Disney money. How much of the ticket does the theater keep? Half.
I thought the theater makes most of their money off the concession.
They do.
Distribution charge.
Distribution charge, about 50%. It goes up and down depending on where in the world you are. China, it's 75%. Disney has a movie make 500 million in China. They see 125 million of that. The Chinese government keeps 375 million.
Wow.
So you got another couple 100 million distribution.
So if that movie made 500 million, ticket sales reach 500 million. It only cost them 450 million to make. They made $50 million on it. No. How much of that 500 million did they see? About 250 million. So if it cost them 450 million to make, and they got back from it 250 million, what is that?
A loss.
A loss of 200 million bucks, right there.
That explains why the people in Shark Tank don't like supporting making movies for their money.
Yes, absolutely. Now, why do they keep making the movies that continually lose money? They've lost money on every movie since 2019.
Because they're influencing
Yes.
movies.
Because it's not about making money, it's about creating idols of the heart. It's about creating a culture that worships and prioritizes something that is anti-God.
Is that really what's going on in their thinking?
Well, whether it's in their thinking or not, who are they obeying?
Satan.
Yeah, you are of your father the devil, and
Wow.
the will of your father you will do. Have they thought that all? No. They're just blindly doing what comes naturally to them. Michael Medved. Anybody know who Michael Medved is?
Oh, yeah.
Who's Michael Medved?
He's a commentator, he's a radio commentator. I think he's a lawyer
Movie
too,
critic.
right?
He is a movie critic. What is he most famous for?
2 thumbs up. PBS.
Siskel and Ebert became the most important movie critics in America in the 1970s and 80s.
I know that.
They worked for PBS, and they got a reasonable salary. But their contract with PBS came up, and what did they say?
We want more money.
We want not just more money, we don't want a reasonable salary. We are mega stars here. We make movies or break movies with our thumbs up, thumbs down. You will pay us gazillions of dollars to keep doing this. And what did PBS say?
Drop dead.
Yeah, I think there's other people that can go thumbs up and thumbs down. This is not a hard thing to do. Hit the bricks. And so Siskel and Ebert went off and syndicated their own movie critic show. PBS said, ooh, we got to get somebody in here now. They got in 2 guys, one of whom was
Michael Medved.
Michael Medved. And that's where he became famous in the culture. He did a study in the 1980s. Now that's 45 years ago, 40 years ago. During the 1980s, there were 10 movies that were savage attacks on Christianity, like The Missionary. I forget the names of them all now because I read his stuff 30 years ago. There were 10 movies that were positive towards Christianity. The most famous of them being a very slow movie that still made a gazillion. Everybody loved it.
When was it from? The 80s?
Passion
Yep.
of Christ
No.
From the 80s.
in the 80s.
Chariots
Oh my
of
God.
Fire.
Oh, okay.
Very positive towards Christianity. The story of the flying Scotsman.
That was God, I was running my movie theater at the time. It was 4 reels, had to have an intermission in the middle, took forever, slow movie.
Yeah,
2.5
but people still came to it.
2.5 hours long, longest movie we had.
Yep. All 10 of the movies that were positive towards Christianity did what?
Probably tanked.
Nope.
They did good?
Every one of the positive toward Christianity movies did what?
Well,
Made money. Every one of them was profitable. Every one of them gave a good return on the investment. Every single one of the movies that savaged Christianity did what?
Lost one.
Lost money. But Hollywood continued going into the 90s anti-Christian movies and stopped making Christian movies. And when they were asked why they were doing that, what did they say? We're just giving the people what they want. But if you were giving them what they want, those movies would make money, right?
that's like when they went to visit the people in that farming country, and they were growing these huge crops, and they wanted to know the secret to how to do
Yeah.
that. And when they found out it was prayer, and
Yeah.
they're like, well, we will rethink that.
Yeah, we don't want to hear that. So the whole idea of America, the underlying things, are often idols of the heart. Success, power, and why do I pick on America? Because what has been the dominant culture in the world?
America.
Up until the last 20 years, where did almost all entertainment come from?
United States.
Yeah. Where did most of the philosophy come from? Well, there was the communist bloc, but was that a very successful philosophy?
No.
So where was the only successful philosophy? Us. We were the exporters to the world. If you go to South America, what kind of t-shirts or sneakers do you see?
Our companies.
Anywhere around the world.
Yeah, Nikes.
Nike.
Adidas back in the day. Why? Because we're the exporters. And that's why Satan has pushed for us to cultivate these idols of the heart. Babylon invaded their idols into, the Canaanites invaded their idols. Greek invaded their philosophies. Same thing today. And so that's why we have to be very, very careful to analyze biblically what it is we really believe. Because it's really easy to just let the culture bring its idols into us.
So is that part of why we hear America's the great Satan?
Yeah? There's too much truth in that.
Well,
Although compared to Islam, America's a clean place.
oh yeah.
But,
Yeah.
and I'll end with this, I spoke at, there's an organization called the International Workers of America. And they have an organization that supports themselves. They have missionaries that train people here. And they put on a conference every year. And when Pastor Phil lived up here, he was very active with them. He got me in to speak at their national conference. And I was one of the trainers at their breakout sessions. I wasn't, a main speaker, but I taught a breakout session on revival. And I went through a lot of the stuff, like the stuff you saw in that Transformations, and we'll show another one of those pretty soon, and a bunch of other stuff. And I talked about revival, the difference between a biblical revival and a emotion-based revival, all kinds of stuff. And this one lady, I left plenty of time at the end for questions. This one lady goes, well, this is all interesting stuff, but I just want to know how to reach my Muslim neighbors. This has nothing to do with reaching my Muslim neighbors. And here was my response. I said, okay, so you live in a community where there are a lot of Muslims moving in. Oh, yes. and you have a church that's reaching out to the Muslims, we're trying so hard. And I said, okay, how many of the girls in your youth group get pregnant? And this was an inner city church, it was an ethnic church. How many of the girls in your church are getting pregnant before they get married? Oh, we've got a lot of that problem in the church. We have really great ministries to unwed mothers, and we do a lot of stuff in keeping girls from having abortions. And I said, okay, so yeah. I said, how many of your young people are really struggling with addiction and are into drugs? Oh yeah, we've got great addiction ministries, and we're doing a lot with the addicts, and we're having we're really reaching out to the kids in our church and in the community that are doing drugs. I said, okay, so I'm a good Muslim. How many of the girls in the Muslim community are getting pregnant outside of wedlock?
0.
None. How many of their kids are getting strung out on coke or heroin or whatever? This was back when it was still heroin, before it was fentanyl.
0.
So what you're telling me is you want to evangelize someone out of a community where they're having 0-0 and bring them into a place so their daughters can become harlots and their sons junkies and dope peddlers. You think that I'm being cruel, but that's exactly how they see it, and they're not wrong. Until we can out-righteous the Muslims, we cannot evangelize them.
Boy, that's profound.
But when I'm
And what made Christianity in the first century powerful was not their great ministries. It was what?
preaching.
Changed lives.
Their
It wasn't
lives.
even preaching.
It's how they live.
Righteousness.
It was that they out-righteoused everyone in the ancient world. And when people compared the lives of the average Christian with the average non-Christian, they said, wow, these people have something we don't have. I'll give you a verse. Look with me at Acts 5. We'll be done.
While you're going there, Pastor, you just reminded me of what you brought up a couple of weeks ago about how the British guy saw or heard George Washington praying.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. Look at Acts 5, 13 and 14. What's that say?
Yet none of the rest dared join them, but the people esteemed them highly. And believers were increasingly added to the Lord, multitudes of both men and women, so that they brought the sick out into the streets and laid them on the bed.
And it goes on down through. What's that saying? Did the people hang out with them as, yo, you guys are just kind of cool and rad and we like you a lot?
No.
Was that the attitude of the people towards the believers? No, no one dared join them. Though they were saying, whoa, these people are hardcore. Man, they make me, I don't know. But at the same time, they're going, wow, but they've got something I don't got. How can they have that? How can they be that way? Blows my mind. So more and more of them were coming and saying, I want what you've got.
So you're saying, in other words, change lives is what they're seeing,
Yep.
rather than, as you said, especially in the communities where you're talking inner city, they have a lively church, but drugs are prevalent in all
Yep.
the kids. The girls
Same
also-
here.
Yeah.
I knew when I first came here 30 years ago, the most popular church in Gloucester County had 300 kids at their youth group every Sunday evening. Why? Because we bought 100 of the best video games available, and we come together and we play video games for an hour, and then we have a 10-minute gospel presentation. And somebody said, we had several kids go to your youth group, and you understand that a whole bunch of kids are hooking up and sneaking out and having sex while they're there. They said, oh yeah, sure, that goes on, but at least they're hearing the gospel.
Gospel with no power.
That's the absolute opposite of what they did. And so if we want to see change, we have to give change lives. I know I said, but what was the difference? Did Paul get the same results in every place he preached the gospel?
No.
No.
If you compare Thessalonica, 1 Thessalonians 1, with Corinth, were they the same response, the same results?
No.
Did Paul preach a different gospel at Corinth than he preached at Thessalonica?
No,
Same thing.
So what made the difference?
people
What they saw.
responded.
The response of the people. People being saved, churches growing, as long as the pastor, the preacher, is being faithful to the word, that's the bare minimum, has nothing to do with the preacher, has everything to do with the people. If the people grab hold of it and are transformed by it, that impacts the world for Christ. If the people, yep, great sermon, preacher, yep, torn, nothing happens. So if there's a problem in a church, once you've eliminated the gospel isn't being preached, if that's where it starts, that's the end of it. If the gospel isn't being preached, you don't have to look 1 millimeter beyond that. But once you've established the gospel is being preached properly, the response comes down to the people. That's a tough thing to say, but that's exactly what you see in the New Testament.
And were you saying the response of the people, the unsaved, or is it because of the saved in the church, people are seeing the difference in them?
It is the response of people who get saved, but therefore who are saved.
But I'm saying, like, you preach the gospel, but if your church is not following, most of the people are not, anybody coming in will look over and say, hey, you know, I get what he's saying, but they're not following it. So if they are, then that's when.
And where there's that, and that's exactly what you have in Corinth.
That's why a lot of these big churches are so bad at that, because people are all over the place doing what they want.
Yep. And the difference with the mega churches is you get enough money, you can build a church not on the gospel, but on successful business practices, the same way you build a successful business.
Certainly in the ears.
By
Giving the people what
using
they want to hear.
Madison Avenue techniques to attract crowds.
We get enough advertisements for that stuff, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know a lot of church. I know one church around here is very big, and as soon as they get them in, they get them involved. They put them in some ministry.
Yeah.
Get them. That's how they keep them. I mean, that's.
And is that biblical? Lay hands suddenly on.
Oh, man.
Huh. God bless. Have a great week.
Thank you, Pastor.
Have a
Just officially, folks, I will be up at Mom's till Friday night late, but I am always available. Texts are the surest way to get me. My